Hey everyone, how's it going? Welcome back to the channel. Dylan here. We have a major update today about Michigan Senate Democratic nominee Abdul al-Sayed. And President Trump actually just came out and talked about him, and things are really heating up. Al-Sayed has responded to President Trump as well. So Donald Trump has some words to say about him, as well as some other people as well, which I really want to, talk about this, and because I've been hearing it all over the news with this guy, and, I personally don't know much about him, so I want to take today's video to learn and to expose what's really going on, right? Because the mainstream media, it's so hard to have a trustworthy news source. So here on my show, I try to look at both sides and really just watch the news together, form an opinion, form a more intelligent take on the world, right? So we can have a better worldview and so we can understand what's going on, right? That's the point of this show. So we're going to dive into this, but before we do, we're going to read scripture and pray because God comes first. Amen? Comment amen if you believe that. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord your God goes with you. He will never leave you nor forsake you. Amen. Remember, my brothers and sisters, that God is with you, whether you realize it or not. Everywhere you go, He is with you. Amen. Okay, so President Trump has come out to address the nation about al-Sayed. Let's take a listen. This is after the Michigan primary win. So he hasn't won quite yet, but he did do the primary win. So let's take a listen, guys.
When I watch Abdul, he's full of shit. So, if you remember, during my State of the Union speech from a little while ago, I made a very strong statement. I said that America will never be a socialist country. And I was right. What I didn't say is what they're trying to do. They want to skip socialism. They want to go right down to the bottom of the barrel. That's communism. They want it to be a communist country. We're not letting them have it as a communist country, not even for a minute. Not even for a minute.
So this guy, he's getting a lot of backlash, al-Sayed, because President Trump, he's insinuating that he has this sort of agenda. And he is something of this agenda that President Trump doesn't like, and it doesn't align with the Republican Party. What do you guys think about this man? Do you like Abdul al-Sayed or no? Comment below what your true thoughts are about him.
Together we will defeat communism, socialism, and Marxism in America once and for all. It's defeated. It's going to go down. It always goes down, but sometimes it takes a lot of people with it. It takes too long. You got to nip it in the bud. The Democrat communists in Congress claim to stand for working people, but every single one voted against our tax cuts. They voted against securing the border. They wanted open borders. The Democrats voted against securing the border. They want to raise your taxes to levels that you've never had to pay before. Remember this. They want to raise your taxes. All my life I've been watching politics, and I never knew I'd be doing this. Who the hell ever thought I'd be doing it? But all my life I've been watching, and every politician, Democrat, Republican, they always said, we will cut your taxes, even if they didn't have any intention of doing it. They always say it. I said, that guy is lying. He's not telling the truth. But I'd watch, we will cut your taxes. These guys say we will raise your taxes. They say we're going to raise your taxes.
Look what happened in California. Very high taxes, right? A lot of blue states, high tax, a lot of red states, low taxes. It's just how it is.
I never heard of anything. And then they actually get votes. The whole thing is crazy. But they voted against no tax on tips. They voted against no tax on overtime. They voted against no tax on Social Security. But when I say voted against, 100%. There wasn't one Democrat that voted in favor of these incredible things like voter ID and proof of citizenship. They voted against that, even though the actual Democrats, think of it, the Democrats want it. You know who doesn't want it? The politicians, because they'll never get elected again. If you had fair and strong elections, they would lose 25% of their base. They would never be elected again. And I'm trying to explain that to Republicans, but some of them don't quite understand it. They don't understand it because they're good people. They're good people. They don't know how crooked these people are. I've dealt with a lot of crooked people in my life. They don't know how bad these people are. We got to get the Republicans to be tougher.
Wow. So look at this. Abdul has responded. Take a listen, guys, to Donald Trump. Let's take a listen. What do you guys think about him?
Before we get into everything else, and there's a lot for us to talk about, what is your response to the president?
I'm glad he thinks I'm a lovely gentleman. A lot of people think so. Look, this is the response that they have. You notice what he talked about. First, look at the background. It says no tax on tips. The man can't stay on focus. That's like the one thing that he did to offer any economic relief. But instead of that, he's more focused on me and what I'm going to do while we're living through an affordability crisis that is generational. People are paying nearly $5 in gas because of a war he started. And half the time, if he's not talking about me, he's talking about the drapes in his ballroom. So at the end of the day, I invite the president to focus what I'm saying.
Okay, buddy. You're getting slightly carried away, okay? If you know anything about Trump, the dude talks a lot. He's not half of what I've listened to a fair amount of his speeches. He doesn't talk about the ballroom half the time. Okay, you're exaggerating. And I haven't heard him talk much about you. Yeah, sure, these clips go viral, but that's like a 3-minute segment in like an hour and a half speech. So you guys got to keep that in mind as well. This guy, it's like, I don't know much about him, but just don't exaggerate so much, man. Like, his policies and ideologies might be decent, but, just calm down a little bit, okay? But he's an articulate man, I will say that. He seems smart to me.
I want to get money out of politics, put money in your pocket, and pass Medicare for all. I think a lot of Michiganders want that right now. And I think Mike Rogers, for his own part, is running away from Donald Trump himself. When you're asked Mike Rogers about his position on the war or his position on Trump's tariffs, he is mum. So, look, I'm looking forward to tying Mike Rogers to Donald Trump all day, every day. But I do agree with the part where he says I'm a lovely gentleman.
I'm not sure he meant that, but we'll leave it at that. You mentioned what your campaign message was over the last several months.
Look, I think the guy seems fine. I don't know any of his policies, but so far he seems like a nice guy. I don't know, Abdul Al-Sayed. But let's listen to what Kid Rock has to say about him.
Imagine running to represent a state, and while running, you say you hate part of the state. That's what Michigan Senate candidate Abdul Al-Sayed did in a resurfaced clip from 2021 when he was running for Michigan governor.
I hate Mackinac so much. It's funny because, if we win, this is going to be the, summer home. I'm just going to be like, every time I've ever come here, I've hated it. Why am I here?
Here to react is music legend and Michigan native Kid Rock. No one loves Michigan more.
Okay, I live in California. A lot of people who run for California office, they say they hate California too. They want to make it better. So, again, now I'm saying that I think the conservatives are over-exaggerating that clip. I don't think that clip's that bad. There's probably other people who have run in California who said I hate California in the past, and the reason why they're running is they want to fix it.
More than Kid Rock. So let's talk about this, because in Wisconsin we have someone running for governor who hates Thanksgiving, and now you have someone in Michigan running for Senate who hates what might be one of the most beautiful towns in America, which is Mackinac Island. So for those who don't know about Mackinac Island, tell us what it is and tell us your reaction to what he said.
He's an idiot. I know they're already trying to spin it that he was talking about the political conference up there. No. He said, I hate this place. And Mackinac is one of the most beautiful places in America. And don't take my word for it. Ask the millions of people who have visited. I just recently had some friends up here at my lake home in Charlevoix, Michigan, from South Alabama, from Birmingham, Alabama, but have a lake house in Alabama. Knew nothing about northern Michigan. So one of the first things I do is take them over to Mackinac Island. There's no cars there. You get a buggy pulled by horses. You tour the island and the old Fort Mackinac there. You see the beautiful landscape and homes overlooking Lake Michigan and the Mackinac Bridge. And then my favorite thing to do, one of my favorite things on earth, is to end up at the Grand Hotel, which is one of the largest front porches in the world, if not the largest in America, lined with American flags. And you're sitting there having a whiskey drink before you go to dinner. And it's God's country. Every little town up here in North Michigan is like a Norman Rockwell painting come to life. And it's complete idiocracy. I mean, I think we have to be very careful of people like Mandami and El Said, and and their Islam, their what they believe in Islam. This man's saying he hates Mackinac, but he has property in Dubai. We have to be very careful of these wolves in sheep's clothing. And to make another point, is like I would employ Mike Rogers, my friend Mike Rogers, to debate this man and have him state on the record, have him pledge allegiance and acknowledge we are one nation under God, not Muhammad, and call him out in what his book says. The faith they subscribe to, that it says there will be no peace on earth until everyone converts to Islam. And if you want to leave Islam or you won't convert, that they say it's okay to call for your death. I mean, my Democratic friends, not these crazy liberals, but my Democratic friends and independents need to take a hard look at what this teaches, because it's very scary. I believe Charlie Kirk was right when he said this has no place in Western civilization, especially America. And before we even get into debating these crazy socialist and communistic policies they want to implement, I think we need to get down to some real brass tacks and have them state on the record that they know that Sharia law has no place and never will in this country. And God forbid it tries to. Our grandchildren are going to be fighting that war.
So as you point out, his campaign tried to say he was just talking about the conference, but then they also said, they tried to make a joke about what he said about Mackinac Island, saying, who could love an island that doesn't allow automobiles? Like that was gonna get him out of trouble in Michigan. Is that gonna work?
Yeah, I mean, the Motor City, I mean, come on. I mean, idiocracy part 2. This is just insane to even debate it. Anyone who looks at pictures who has ever visited this island, it is God's country. It literally is. It is one of the most beautiful spots on earth. And I hate even being on here with beautiful Lake Charlevoix in the back of me, because we kind of keep this as our own little secret up here. And now I'm kind of letting the whole world know about it.
Too much.
I might be in a lot of trouble up here.
The secret is the cat's out of the bag. Hey, kid, let me ask you about something else, because earlier I was talking about how cool it is that country music now rules the Billboard Hot 100. Literally, first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. Of course, choosing Texas, Ella Langley's at the top, followed by Ben by now, Morgan Wallen. I knew.
Very, very interesting. Now, take a look at this. What would that mean for you? El Sayed is asked about the possibility of becoming the first Muslim senator. Wow, that's actually breaking history, guys. Take a listen.
Well, and you talked about when you've run for office before, death threats that you got, Islamophobia. If you do win, you will become the first Muslim senator in U.S. history. What would that mean for you?
It's not as much about what it means for me. I'm not running to be the first Muslim anything. I just want to be a really, really great senator for my state. But it does mean something, I think, about the country. There are people like J.D. Vance or Donald Trump or Mike Rogers who want to define America as being too small to include some kinds of people. And they point to my name, they point to my faith, they try to insinuate that somehow I'm less American because of those things. But I've put myself forward, asking my state to give me their stake in democracy, to allow me to serve them as an agent of the government. And there is no greater, I think, call than to ask your fellow Americans to give you their stake in democracy. And when they do, I think it says a lot about what America is. They want America to be small. I believe that America is big. It's open-minded. It's big-hearted. It can include any of us, regardless of how we pray, regardless of where our families come from, regardless of who we love or how we identify. That's the America we're building. And I think America, and Michigan in particular, has an opportunity to remind us just how big we are.
You know, in terms of your race, you are not a Democratic socialist. You're not part of the DSA. You have members of them who endorsed you, who supported you. You know, one thing we were talking about last night as we were counting the votes in Michigan was this progressive rise that we've seen in recent weeks and months, and what that looks like for Democrats come November. With the positions that you've had on Medicare for All or abolishing ICE or, you know, a billionaire's tax, what do you think that looks like in terms of going forward? You know, we've heard some people, Van Jones, saying there are some positions that you have to moderate on. Is that your plan? Is that your takeaway from what the margin was last night? Or what does that look like over the next 90 days?
Look, I think we've built a movement around the idea that we can get money out of politics, put money in pockets past Medicare for all. I think right now the question that people are asking is not where do you stand on the left-right spectrum on a series of issues that people talk about on CNN. I think the questions that people are asking is who's going to help me afford my housing? Who's going to help me afford my groceries? Who's going to make sure I can see a doctor if I get sick? I'm interested in answering those questions. I'm not a socialist, but I am a scientist. And so I like empirically driven answers to hard problems. I like to solve them. When it comes to Medicare for All, I didn't just say it one day. I literally wrote a whole book on how we could do it. I went to medical school, did a PhD in public health, led health departments. I have some experience in this matter. And so I'm interested in solutions to problems. Now, if trying to moderate so that I can placate folks who think that somehow the world operates on a left-right spectrum is the way to get elected, I just don't see that on the ground here in Michigan. I'm a lot more focused in having conversations based in people's lives, talking about those solutions, and I think that's exactly how we're going to win this election in the fall.
Abdul El-Sayed, thank you for...
So what do you guys think about that, guys? Abdul El-Sayed said he spoke with Obama after he won. Take a listen.
Let me ask you about some news that we are learning this morning. Local outlets reporting that you spoke to former President Barack Obama on the phone. I know you're not going to give me every detail of the call, but what was the crux of his message to you, Dr. El-Sayed?
Well, Kristen, you're right. I like to keep private conversations private, but it was a really warm and inspiring conversation. I got to be honest with you, I never saw myself ever able to run for public office. I literally told former President Bill Clinton that at my college graduation, in which I was the senior speaker and he was the main speaker. And I then watched the next year Barack Hussein Obama run for and win the presidency. I watched him serve with a level of class, a level of elegance that we could only pine for now. So I really enjoyed the conversation. I was grateful for his advice. It was very warm, very inviting. And I know that he knows the critical role that Michigan is going to play in holding Trump accountable, in winning back the Senate, and in building forward the future that we need.
Is he going to campaign with you, Dr. El-Sayed?
Look, I really hope so. And it was a really good conversation about what we need to do to be able to win. And obviously, this is somebody who knows a lot about winning Michigan.
And just to be clear, do you anticipate he'll show up on the campaign trail with you? Is that one of the broad topics you all discussed?
Look, we talked a lot about what it'll take to win. Obviously, his presence here in Michigan would mean so much to the coalition that helped elect him. So I hope that we get to campaign together.
We thank you for watching, and remember, stay updated on...
Very interesting. So this is Obama's, I guess, new right-hand man. Pretty crazy, guys. Look at this. Slain pastor's family speaks out as video of Abdul El-Sayed resurfaces. Take a listen, guys.
Far-left Democrat Abdul El-Sayed facing backlash following his primary win for Michigan Senate after a video resurfaced of the candidate sharing his true feelings on driver's licenses for illegal immigrants. Listen.
We've also got to make sure that in this state, we are not discriminating by documentation status. Right now, if you're undocumented, you don't get access to a driver's license. So you're stuck. You don't get access to a lot of the basic things the state offers everybody else. And I think that's ridiculous. If we're honest and serious about empowering our immigrant communities, then we've got to put some money behind making sure that folks have the access to be able to train in their profession of choice.
Detroit pastor Stephen Singleton was killed in November of 2024 when an illegal migrant from Colombia allegedly struck him with a car while Singleton was out for a run. Pastor Singleton's wife, Terry, and daughter Ruth join me now. Ruth, I'll begin with you. What goes through your mind when you hear those words from someone who could be your next senator?
That's scary to me because I feel that it is, if someone is doing something illegally, that's giving them a right to do something that is only should be a person who's doing something legal, like having a legal citizen to do. So for him to hear that, him say that he wants someone who is doing something illegal to have a right to do something only legal citizens should do is scary to me.
I think you nailed it. This is a question of right and wrong. And Terry, I'm going to bring you in here. Your husband seemed to do everything right during his life. During this moment when he was struck, he was actually wearing a reflective vest, which is something you're supposed to do. But he was also training for a marathon. Keep his health up. Yeah. He was a devoted individual to helping others. And Terry, he devoted himself to you as you were married for 53 years. So how infuriating is it that far left politicians like El Sayed want to bend over backward for not your husband who did the right thing, but for the people who do the wrong thing?
I feel personally that everybody should be vetted as an individual. The young man that was 28 years old that hit my husband was released by the police, even though he had a fraudulent license plate on his car. And he was let go before my husband was even put on life support. So it's not, to me, about specific people, so to speak, but it is about what that person is. And he was a criminal. He wasn't just a person. He was actually a criminal who was picked up 2 months after the situation and let go before my husband even had an opportunity to breathe his last breath. And not charged. They refused to charge him. And I feel like the system needs to be redone because the system let down me, my children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, all of our family members who loved my husband, the community he was devoted to. They let us down when they picked him up and let him go back to his country without charging him. It took them 10 months to finally charge him without asking any of the people who were witnesses to the situation, viewing the tapes or the videos that were at the gas station and or on the cameras that were on the curbs and the corners. And he was driving down a residential street. My husband was hit so hard that he was cracked up from his brain stem down to his toes. Oh, gosh. He had to have 2 craniotomies, and my life has been forever changed by that. I am essentially couch surfing now because my husband, who I've been with since I was 15, was the breadwinner and who took care of me, and I have disability issues. So I have a very strong opinion about just giving anybody a license, or just saying that anybody's entitled to one. There's so many things that we as Americans are suffering because there's people who are not right, who are criminal, who come here and do these kind of things. So I'm not against anybody. I don't have biases against people who come here from other countries. I have problems with people who are here illegally.
All right, guys, now John Fetterman has issued a major challenge to El Sayed. He says, "I dare you." Let's take a listen, guys.
All right, after a divisive race that split the party, far-left progressive Abdul El Sayed is now urging Democrats to unite after defeating Congresswoman Haley Stevens in Michigan's Senate primary.
We as a party have to come together. You know, we had a hard-fought battle. There were some disagreements, but I also know that the things that unite us are so much bigger than whatever it is that divides us. We have an opportunity right now to come together to embrace the idea that we can have an America that is affordable because Michiganders right now are suffering. Mike Rogers is exactly the opposite of that, and we have an opportunity to come together to defeat him, defeat Trumpism, hold him accountable, and start actually addressing the challenges that people in Michigan are facing.
A former Obama fundraiser and Silicon Valley tech pioneer Allison Wen joins me now. Allison, great to have you back on the program, and as has been well documented, when you've been here, you were heavily entrenched in that Democrat party ecosystem. I'm sure you have a lot of friends still there. So what are those friends saying this morning about what this means, this win by El Sayed means for the future of their party?
Well, they can't have their cake. You know, you can't, you have to decide what side you're on. Is this the party of Michigan auto workers, or is this the party of socialism, Mandami, and AOC? And so there is a split down the middle right now. And so they need to decide. And if it's going to be socialism, they're going to lose a lot of people like me. I know I used to be a big Democrat, and then I was forced to become a Republican, happily Republican now.
So Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman is issuing this challenge to El Sayed over the course of the next 3 months. Listen.
And I just want to issue a dare. Continue to campaign with Hassan Piker right now. You're in a general election now. I dare you. Keep campaigning with someone like Hassan Piker, the guy that, on the 25th anniversary of 9/11, my best friend says America deserved 9/11, and you're going to try to win a general election. So that's, how can he reconcile the outlandish thing that he said?
Okay, so that's the question, Allison. We heard in the introductory soundbite that I played that El Sayed wants to bring everybody together, bring the Democrat Party together. But what does El Sayed actually campaign on? Is he going to do things that maybe disavow some of his previous positions to bring more independents back in and bring more sort of center-left Democrats back in? Or does he continue campaigning with Hassan Piker and the like and say, this is me, I'm going to double down on this?
Well, we actually have to look at his spots. His spots show us that he's a socialist. And so what does he say? Well, free health care for all. What does that mean? Free groceries for all. Well, I grew up in a socialist country. Free health care means that, I was bitten by a rabid dog when I was 5 years old in a communist country, and I was sent on a bus for 10 hours to get the medicine. And for groceries, we stood in line for 10 hours with my mother. That's the harsh reality of socialism. So do you want that, or do you want growth? And then double whammy with California, it became the Socialist Republic of California, our beautiful, great, innovative state. Succumbed to the socialist mayors like Karen Bass, as well as the catch and release district attorney of Chesapeake and George Gascon, that made our streets very unsafe. Bad schools, they outlaw algebra here in San Francisco. So I want to hear real policies from Abdul El Sayed and hear what he has to bring people together. People, at the end of the day, they want grocery, they want safety on the streets. I know I have three young adults, and that's what I care for about the streets in San Francisco and Los Angeles, where my daughter lives. She was attacked there. What are you going to do to make it safer? What are you going to do? There are kids that are going to UCLA and Berkeley, and they've not even taken algebra. I can't even believe that.
That's unreal. Yeah, and to your point, this isn't a mayor, this isn't a representative, this is a senator with national implications that will touch you there in California, will touch us here in New York, will touch the entire country if he's elected, and we need to pay attention to that. Allison, it's always a pleasure. Thank you, my friend.
Whoa, and listen to John Fetterman. This is huge, guys.
I know you've criticized several of El Sayed's progressive policies. You've been involved in a public dispute with him as well. What's your reaction to his victory that we've now projected in this key battleground state of Michigan?
Well, I think it definitely puts the seat in play. Michigan typically doesn't really elect a Republican in the Senate for a while. And now Rogers was a very strong candidate, objectively. He barely lost to Slotkin, and she's a very strong candidate, and she just barely won back then. So now, if you've seen some of the polling, El Sayed is under maybe 5 to 6 points or more against him. And now some real money is going to flood into that state. And a lot of the things that he has done and said during the primary, we're going to come back to haunt, like campaigning with a guy that loves Hamas and is very proud to stand with communist regimes.
So you're talking about Hassan Piker?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Who's out there with El Sayed on the campaign trail. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, you'll be able to find out what he really thinks. Is he still going to campaign with a guy that proud to love Hamas? We'll see. Are you going to campaign with a guy that openly loved Mao and even dresses like him for events? So overall, you're going to find out. He was he had a very arrogant campaign, and now today he just discovered that less than a majority of your state's only Democrats didn't even want you and vote for you. You came in around 48%. So, you have a real situation as Democrats now that puts that seat in play.
President Trump just moments ago called El Sayed's projected victory in Michigan, and I'm quoting Trump now, great news for the Republican Party, labeling El Sayed a, quote, communist loser who hates Jews and Israel, end quote. How do you respond to what the president is saying, and do you agree with his assessment?
I'm saying objectively, as a Democrat that understands how to win a competitive state, it's like it does put it in play. And 100% the Republicans were eager to run against him, and that's where we are. And now you see how close it was, 14,000 votes out of 1.5 million votes. And now that's a divided primary. And he has said a lot of negative things towards her and other people. And now I think he's going to find out that he has to mend fences, as he said. Well, I guess we'll see.
Considering El Sayed's win in Michigan, and we've now projected he is the winner in the Michigan primary, are you willing to consider that perhaps you are the Democrat missing what voters want from their candidates?
So for me, this candidate, I have a great relationship with vast majority of Democrats. We have really great candidates across the map. In Ohio, Georgia, in Texas, we have great ones. But, I have a real problem with people that are proud to campaign people that loved Hamas or that they love communist kinds of regime and under those kinds of policies overall. And that's why I'm saying objectively as a Democrat in the Senate saying that puts that seat in danger. And now that could, and now people like Sanders, after what he's done in Maine with Plattner, and now it's like it's creating more kinds of chaos. And now it's like, will you own the blowback and making it much more difficult to defend this seat?
If a Democratic Senate primary were held in Pennsylvania today, the Commonwealth, as you like to call it, of Pennsylvania, do you believe you would win? If there was a Democratic primary in Pennsylvania?
Like today?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's we don't know exactly, but overall, it's 2026, so it's really kind of a theoretic.
It is a hypothetical question. But I asked the question because you told my colleague Manu Raju last month, you probably remember, that you would leave the Democratic Party if it adopts an anti-Israel policy, calling it your red line. What exactly does that look like, and at what point will you make that decision to potentially leave your own Democratic Party?
Well, I've said this, if the Democratic Party adds that into the platform, if they say we become a party that will never vote for aid for Israel, or if we will define Israel as the aggressor, or that's the problem in the region, so then would force me to reconsider that.
That one issue alone, just Israel, if the Democratic platform upcoming were to say some anti-Israel stuff, you would leave?
Well, that's become the defining litmus in this race. If you've been following the Michigan race, it was AIPAC, 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 AIPAC. That really made that the center of that race and all the other races across our country. So
AIPAC, the pro-Israel lobby organization. Why is Israel, another country, your red line right now? This is what your critics are saying, rather than a domestic issue that impacts Americans' everyday lives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree with a lot of Democrats, too. And then when you migrate into these extreme kinds of views and embrace the kinds of people that should really be considered toxic. So, of course, I'm entitled to my opinion, and if you're proud to campaign with those individuals, great. That's really up to them. I called trash Plattner. I called that he is a real problem, and now why people seem to be okay with it.
But just
Why was Bernie Sanders okay with the guy? And he was already the Nazi tattoo. And after all the allegations of roughing up his ex-girlfriends and saying terrible things, indefensible things online, and you would push these kinds of candidates that put our ability to reclaim the majority at serious risk.
I hear everything you're saying, but why is Israel your red line, the major issue that would force you potentially to leave your own party?
Because I think we have our nation has a very special responsibility to protect and support Israel. I mean, we're Democrats. We're the ones that have a very kinds of progressive values. That's the nation that only has those kinds of similar values in that entire region. And now, if you look at the kind of danger and the circumstances there, remind people that Israel is not the aggressor. They've been pushed into this existential war. And now I think for me, it's very critical that I'm proud to say I will always vote and support Israel. There are no Republicans that are pro-choice and pro-union and pro-gay community. I mean, all of those things. So, if you consider me politically homeless at some point, now I have put me at odds. And I don't know why. I think more people can appreciate, calling out people that are appropriate, whether it's people like Plattner or whether it's someone like Hassan Piker, or you have, people, incoming Congress people that were going to wipe their mouth with the American flag. I mean, it's like, why is it, it seems like if you can't criticize or call that out, because it seems like if you are a DSA people, run your under own banner. Run, hey, I'm going to run as a DSA, the DSA party.
Socialists of America.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we want more socialism, and now we become more embracing communism in many of those circles.
So you think socialism eventually emerges and becomes communism? Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying, what's become acceptable to say, for example, now, organizations like J Street have now made it okay for Democrats to vote against even supporting Iron Dome, purely defensive kinds of a system. Why would you not support that kind of a thing? And that's pushing us in the Democratic Party. Are we willing to turn our back to Israel? History has demonstrated that if a nation or people will turn their back to the Jewish community, that has some very tragic outcomes.
Congresswoman Haley Stevens, who just lost this Democratic primary in Michigan, echoed calls across the Democratic Party for unity heading into the fall. Are you willing to unify with Abdul El-Sayed, for example, who's now the Democratic nominee, the Democratic candidate?
Oh, yeah, the tough guy. He called me ugly and then I should be on a pike. And I'm like, Chief, I own mirrors. I know I'm an ugly guy. But if you want to put me on a pike, I mean, he has like a little man syndrome kind of energy. And now he was really arrogant in that race. And now he have just found out that, less than a majority of Democrats want him. And he has a serious responsibility between now and November to hold that seat.
So you think he could lose to Mike Rogers?
Oh, 100% that's possible, without a doubt. I mean, the polling seems to indicate that it is in danger.
So how should members of your party, the Democratic Party, come together to defeat the Republican candidate?
Yeah, well, I can't come together with someone if you are willing to embrace people that loves Hamas or that thinks America deserved 9/11. I think that's reasonable, and I think that's the reasonable view. Being able to kind of be like, well, maybe and try to ignore those things. That's not a big tent situation. There are things that are unacceptable to have these views as a Democrat.
Wow, that is crazy, guys. Now, take a look at John Fetterman. He says, I'm one of the few Democrats willing to call this out. Let's tune in, guys.
Not every Democrat is rushing to embrace the far left. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman is the voice of sanity within that party, pushing back against all of this. So, of course, socialist-backed Abdul El-Sayed, he would like to put John Fetterman's on a pike as a warning to other Democrats. And with Democratic candidates now openly running against Fetterman, the question tonight is simple. How much more of this can he take? And how much should he take? And does he want to be a part of it? We asked the man himself. Pennsylvania Senator John Fetterman I think it only right to first give you a chance to respond. Senator, I would like to see you safe and secure with your family. I take that as, oh, let's put Senator Fetterman's head on a spike. That's how I interpret it. How did you interpret it?
Well, congratulations. 4 out of 5 Hamas members love that guy, and now he's become part of the DSA. They're really trying to take over the Democratic Party. I mean, these are the kind of people that, as a Democrat, I just can't ever defend these people. And then when you look at that woman in Wisconsin, I mean, if I'm running for the governor with her as a Democrat, I'd be losing my mind. I mean, I'm losing to total crazy pants. And now, like I've watched her in some of her reviews, whether it's in Wisconsin or whether in Michigan now, these are the people that are winning elections across this country. And I think I'm probably one of the few Democrats that's willing to call it out, and I watched that interview on your network where the co-chair of DSA is saying, well, we got to abolish the presidency, the Pentagon, the Senate, the presidency, and abolish the police and the border. And now that wasn't parody. This wasn't Portlandia. This was a serious interview with someone that claims that is the platform. And now why more Democrats are willing to call this out. Yeah, thank you for putting it up. Exactly. I mean, it's now, and people like El Sayed, I mean, this is a guy that campaigns with Piker. And now coming up on the 20th anniversary of 9/11, the guy that said America deserved that, he's proud to campaign with him, proud to campaign with the guy that described Hamas as 1,000% better than Israel. And that's not reasonable if you're that guy. I mean, I've seen the Pew polled 44% of Muslims view Hamas in a positive light. So, that's their new strategy, clear that he's going to try to win there in Michigan. But I'm going to call it out and can't defend these kinds of extreme things. And now the more and more when you kind of drill down on some of these candidates, that they can't really articulate and defend these absurd views.
All right, thanks for...
Wow, that is crazy, guys.